to get money to Trump or the Trump campaign or anything like that. So it's basically just legitimately made it corrupt. You know what I mean? Before it was corrupt, but it was kind of like hidden corruption, where it was like, well, it's they're working within the framework of the law, but now when you make the laws, make the system, make the systematic things where it affects the common man, like let's say insurance, right? So we didn't create the system. We didn't say that we wanted interstate freeways or highways or we didn't vote to say that cars should take precedence over everything. There should be cars and a parking spot in every place. We weren't consulted. The common person wasn't consulted about any of that, right? So we got people from city councils, city mayors to up the food chain that are doing things for supposedly for the people, but like if you pass that law, right, that made it pretty much a crime to drive without insurance, you pretty much tax the poor, right? Because insurance, it depends on your history, this and that. Technically, it could be $20. Realistically, it's more like 80 to 180, right? Depending on how many accidents or this and that. So basically, if you're poor, you can't drive. And the whole system is there for people that can drive. So you're already out the system already. And I think it goes like that for a lot of things. Like banking, people go like, it's stupid to have a bank account and not have a bank account and go to the check cashing places. Yeah, it might seem stupid if you're at certain level, right? But the banks, like any other place in America, are pretty predatory, and they will actually go after people that are poor and and again, it's like a fee. It's like a tax that you get taxed or feed if you don't have insufficient funds in your account. Let's say you you couldn't cover something for like $50, $60, right? The fee is like close to that, $30, $40 for one transaction. So if you have a lot of them go through with a handy dandy debit card, magically you're gonna have like a $300, $200, something dollar fee statement saying all these transactions didn't go through, and or we allowed them to go through, and I know now it's opt out, right? But that's kind of why a lot of people are kind of timid about banks and they're poor. They're like, should I get a bank account and I'm gonna get feed out $100, $200? You go, well, that wouldn't happen if the shaming's always on the poor person, not on the $40 transaction charge. So it's your fault type of thing. It's like technically yes, but people are poor because they don't have the education to manage a checkbook. People are poor because they don't have access to a lot of other things that the average person does, you know? So it's kind of a lot of exploitation now that happens to some poor people, and it's very obvious that people are trying to make it sound like because you're poor, you're like a bad person. And the funny thing is about the progress of technology, where it's leading, about the fewer jobs that's being created every time you do something that progresses the thing further, it should be so everybody benefits, right? So let's say you create a new peanut plant that picks up the crops and cleans them and all that, and doesn't need any human beings in the system. At some point, the whole system starts breaking down if you start taking people's jobs, right? A lot of people at the top are right now saying how terrible poor people are and how you shouldn't bitch and complain about the McDonald's job, and that Mickey D's job is you should be grateful that you even got that job. Again, it's a top down mentality. They went and didn't allow us to speak, right? The common man, for like close to 30-40 years now. Or we didn't speak up, and or we were bamboozled by these politicians, like especially Republicans, to be totally okay because that's going to create more jobs and the new internet economy is going to be blah blah blah. And sure, I mean, technically, you can make $1 million doing YouTube videos. Technically, yes. But there's a lot of infrastructure that would even come to that, right? You first need to be educated, the best education that you could have, like Harvard or something, because all those polished videos out there on YouTube are very polished, right? It's a competition. So for that, you need a crew. You need to pay the crew. The thing is on dicey ground from the get go, and it can only be sustainable to a certain term. You know, because if everything you do that's gonna be innovative on YouTube, somebody's gonna quickly knock it off and do their one top 10 video about this or about that. So it becomes an infinite race to new ideas about something, where it's not patented, it's nothing, so anybody can make their own video and make it even more polished with more money, with better talent than you can, right? So I see what a lot of people at the top are saying, that basically it's the moochers and this and that. They talk about poor people, but they weren't poor for a long time. Like, it was the policies that the people at the top that made all those people poor. Detroit wasn't a shithole for a long time. It got created into that by a lot of the policies, a lot of systematic changes that were taking place in the past 30-40 years that made people poor. You know what I mean? Well, the dismantling of the banking system regulations, where banking that was for consumers, common citizen, and banking that was for investment, that got destroyed, and they said they were gonna fix it. They haven't. They said that if you're a billionaire and you have a corporation, now it's impossible for it to fail, and somehow that's a fair system. It's not rigged against the common man. I don't know. I think it's pretty much is rigged when you have to tell people that we need to use the common man's money to bail out rich people because the system is going to collapse because of that. I thought that was the whole point of capitalism. If you were the biggest, baddest dude in town, you should be able to sustain those punishing falls, right? That was the whole point of it, right? That everybody was like, for more or less equal playing field for new talent, for new ways of doing things, right? Like, you can start a new company and it was a equal playing field, and there was no political connections that could derail your company. There was no there was no benefit uh, for to be political. So, you know, there would be no point for corporations to be political, right? And that's not how it is now. Like everybody's giving money for their own sector. So the banking sector is only benefits. They lobby for their own benefit. Everybody's just lobbying for their own benefit, and they're making it impossible for the common man to make it better for their lives. I guess everybody's self-interested in the United States, and the whole point is it benefits the people at the top for them to benefit the middle class and the poor. It helps them in the long run to make it better for everybody. And that mentality should go across the board. Really, poor people. There's a lot of infighting about within poor people, like rich poor. The rich whites, they don't give a shit about poor whites. They really don't. Like, if you think Trump, because he's white and he has money, he gives a shit about your downfall in society and how whites are kind of now not the majority and how you hate that and all that. Guess what? That guy is not gonna help you. That's the thing. Like it and technically it could you would get like a Obama, right? Obama, the only thing he gave a shit was because he was poor or middle class at some point. He was made rich by the by the system, by the establishment, by being president. But he wasn't always rich, you know. That matters now more than any other time in history. Like it matters now that somebody actually gone through what you've been through. You know, like people on food stamps. If he didn't go through, he knew people that did. It matters. It matters. It matters. It changes the way you see the world. When you always live in a penthouse, when you can use the system to your advantage with bankruptcy laws and all that, and it's all a game for you to rig it to your advantage. Like that's what Trump thinks. That's his mentality. That's a toss mentality now. How is that gonna benefit? How is he gonna give a shit about what you're going through as a white person, as a black person, as anybody? Unless you're rich or in his social circle, he doesn't care. Like he's gonna everybody that he interacts with, either he's paying directly or indirectly in some way. So they're not ever gonna really tell the truth about like they think he's a scumbag. I mean, even if they did, like they would get fired, so it wouldn't benefit them. See, I don't know. The system that we have, it's supposed to be. If you live in America, you're supposed to be like caring about terrorists, not because and how you treat them, not because it's the right thing to do, which is, but because they use propaganda, right, to Trump to prop up what they're about. And the easiest propaganda to do is tell the truth. If your enemy is that bad, which in a lot of ways we're becoming really bad people. We terrorize, torture people with bombs and for what? For oil, for this and that. Like we say we're about, telling the truth, being honest, trying to do the right thing. But yet we have no problems with putting people in prison indefinitely. They did that to the terrorists. Now, I just found out like yesterday that in Texas now there's there's some loophole in the system now magically where so some pedophiles. I'm not saying the pedophiles are great or somebody did some heinous shit in the past was great, right? But so you put them life sentence if you think they're that terrible, right? But they gave them a sentence, whatever how long the sentence was, and they did their sentence. They did the whole point was you're supposed to punish them so they can reform them and this and that. Well, now they're saying because some county is losing money and they didn't know what to do and they had a prison that was empty. They were like, well, let's bring those people here and make money off them. Basically, don't release them because they're too dangerous for them to ever to have a normal life or anything. Let's make them instead of our prisoner, our guest, but they can't leave, and they have the same barbed wire and the same crap. So it's I don't know. It's just very laughable that you would do that to somebody and then say, "Well, we're a moral country, we're a righteous country, and this is what morality is." And I know that they did the loophole scenario with terrorists. They said that they weren't under the Geneva Conventions because they didn't have it wasn't like a country they were fighting, so they didn't have to do the whole morality thing. But a lot of these people are saying all this crap. We're supposed to be very Christian, very moral. It's kind of a little dystopian in that, right? A little 1984 that you say one thing but you do another. You say you're for caring about your citizens, but you jail them and penalize them for any stupid thing on a system that they can't really change now because you're making it harder for people to vote. You're making it harder for people to even have a life, right? I don't know. It's something very immoral, and maybe technically it's legal, but it isn't right, right? It's a big difference between what's legal and what's right. Like allowing prostitution, you could say, well, I don't want my husband to go to prostitute. But you know what? You get a better husband, right? You don't want your kid to go to prostitutes. You know what? Teach them that that's not what you want. That's not your values. There's a big difference between that and making things illegal, right? Like, you're not helping anybody by making things illegal. You're making the world worse. Look at Prohibition, all the crime, all the crap that was done because all the organized crime that was created because they try to make that illegal. And yeah, they made it illegal. That doesn't mean it magically vanishes and people's desire to have sex actually magically goes away, right? I mean, people are going to want to have sex and if you can't get laid, let's say somebody's handicapped, and no woman would ever want to have sex with that guy for whatever reason, right? They can go to a clean, safe place where he can have sex with some chick for like $100 or $60, and they can call the cops if something gets out of hand or anything like that. It will protect the woman, and it will protect that guy too, right? So if we care about what people's health, people's well-being, we would regulate it, right? We don't want to spread diseases, and when you make things illegal, it makes it more easily transmittable diseases, right? Because you go into some city house, and now magically they can have sex, but it's seedy, so the whole process is like not bright lit, so you don't know if the guy even wore a condom. So for the woman, let's say, like she can catch STDs more when you make that illegal. Same thing with drugs. I mean, you don't know what kind of drugs are being manufactured where. You don't know. It could be like meth being cooked up in a suburban neighborhood or a high rich people's neighborhood, you wouldn't know. I mean, you can do that anywhere. So, like, if it was regulated, they would never do that in there. They would do it in an industrial zone where it's very controlled, very clean. It's a big difference for, like, one. It doesn't matter if it gets cooked in the middle of nowhere and all these chemicals get dumped in the ground. If it leaches into the groundwater, it doesn't matter then, right? Because they're just there to make the quick buck. And it matters when it was regulated. Sure, I mean, people could try to make the quick buck, but it's regulated and taxed, and the taxes go to feed the system instead of now it's being used to subvert the system. And if the system really cared about people, they would try to do the right thing by making it legal. But some puritanical person on the top, it usually works like that in the United States. Some puritanical person or that was affected by crime magically wants to allow it, right? Sure, like pedophiles, yeah. I think that there should be some regulatory thing that maybe they should make it a special housing for them or something, or some type of device where they have a recording system on them at all times and always on. That would make it fair, right? I mean, and that way you won't have to redline people. You can just they can live wherever they want it. Just like everything they do is recorded. That would seem better, right? But at the same time, it's like you wouldn't want to be going through that. And it, like I said, they first did it to terrorists. They did some fake ass loophole. Magically, the Constitution didn't apply to them. Geneva Convention didn't apply to them, and now they're doing it to undesirables like pedophiles or whatever. I don't know if gang stalking is part of that mentality. I don't know if you get targeted and you get put on this program to try to get you killed or commit suicide or get you messed up in the head. So in their mind, you're not a threat, right? But you were never a threat to begin with. You're just trying to mind your business, and there's people interfering in your life. So, I mean, how terrible is that, right? So, yeah, it kind of matters that we shit on people's lives, like the pedophile. It shows what extremes we are willing to do for what we think is the right thing. I mean, would it be better for them to like, I don't know, like you can do it with technology, so they always have a body cam on. They're always being tracked or whatever with the GPS on them, right? I mean, they already have the system there. It's more humane to have a camera on you all the time. Let's say for the kid, it's magically it's for the kid, right? It's always for this, for that. I understand with the pedophile thing, but people like rape, magically they can be reprogrammed, I guess you can call it, so that you can function in society. It's that's what you want, right? To people to function in society and to do the right thing. But if you can control their actions in some way, right? Like with a camera on their all on them at all times with a GPS device on them that tracks and pins their location all the time. I don't know. I mean, they're still gonna be an outcast in society. So yeah, I don't really get it. Like you can do it all digitally, right? They're talking about in the future about doing overlays on people, right? Like on things, on the reality that you see. So technically, you can just make it less intrusive. So there's like the GPS on them, and they have a camera on them, and also there's an overlay on them that shows that they were convicted for a sex crime or something. But at the same time, it's like, aren't we going a little bit overboard where you redline them to some place, right? Like under the bridge in Florida, in Miami. What would be better for them and for society? Let's be honest. Once you know somebody's a predator, you can say they're always going to be a predator. Okay. Wouldn't it be a better way, like, to put them in some island or some shit like that, or some out of the way place where they have internet access or whatever, but it's very controlled, very regulated type of internet. If they have cell phones, they're very controlled and regulated cell phone conversations. I mean, everything's already controlled and regulated when it comes to communications. So maybe even more so, right, in those scenarios. But wouldn't it be better for people like that you say that can be integrated into society for whatever reason? I mean, now it's pedophiles, right? It's like a witch hunt that's going on for pedophiles. I get it. But let's think logically. The best thing for society is for us not to pay for their housing, not to pay for anything, right? But at the same time, like, if we're gonna banish them to a thing under the bridge where they become desperate and more, it's like a drug addict, right? A drug addict, you're putting him out there, like, you ruined the man's life, you put him in prison or her in prison, and now she can't get a job. She's pretty much drove to homelessness, so she's gonna, the lure of drugs is gonna be more prominent now, right? So that means that she's or he's gonna use drugs more readily, right? I mean, because there's no point at that point if you pretty much got a criminal record for drugs and all the other offenses that was for using drugs, right? There was there's no recovery for them after that, right? Because you're not integrating those persons that were drug addicts. You're not really helping them after they commit the crime. I get the thing about probation and all that, but probation doesn't really stop anything. There should be more than just probation, right? There should be like support there for the criminal, the drug dealer, the drug user, even pedophiles, even as loathsome and just despicable as pedophiles are, right? Even those people, even the terrorists, even the terrorists, the one that blew up all those people in 9/11, even that guy, we should try to be fair with that person, because the way it starts is there's a loophole on the system magically. Like, first it was terrorists, now it's the loophole is for pedophiles, and pretty soon they're making loopholes for everything. And this big brother mentality is gonna spread, and then it's gonna be everybody now. It was once the seedy, shitty person that you didn't want, and then it turned out that then the whole system turned against everybody. You know, it matters to help those people because it helps society in the long run. Like, we're never gonna become number one country in industrial output anymore. That's pretty much gone. We shipped it out. We could do it, but we don't have the willpower. We don't have, the common man doesn't have the capital to change senators, congressmen, presidents' lives, to make him think differently the way the system is. If you want to work within the system, I mean, a corporation wants to make this law so diamonds become I don't know, more rare or something like that, so they can profit more. Um, the common man is probably gonna pay for it, but they're not gonna be like actually be told that they have an opinion or they have even a right to have an opinion. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the people hate communism and all that, or socialism, which is Europe. They hate it because they've been told to hate it, right? I don't think communism was that. I mean, it was the intentions of communism were good. I mean, they were trying to help the common man, or at least that's what the manifesto said. Because back in the day, capitalism was very brutal to the common man, to the poor people, to there was basically no middle class. It was systematically brutal to the common man. And you see now that it's kind of returning into that, where capitalism is very brutal. They're trying to strip any type of benefits that poor people can get now, from food stamps to anything, and they're trying to make it so people at the bottom fight each other, like blacks fight whites, Latinos fight this and that. They want that infighting within the common man, so they don't have to do the fighting. You know what I mean? Like Fox News and a lot of these other media streams out there, there's usually some type of infighting that they're trying to create. There's some fear they wanna bolster, and the easiest one is to say pedophiles and all that, right? And there's a lot of people thinking like trying to catch a predator type of mentality, and I get that, right? I get that they're trying to make the world a better place in their mind. But again, like, you're pretty much just doing what some guy at the top or some woman at the top wants. They want us, all of us in the bottom or in the middle class, to fight each other. We've been fighting each other for like the past 30 years. While the people at the top, they've been getting richer. They've been using the systematic approach of long-term personal gain for them, and it's working. I mean, it works for them, but it's not going to work forever, because they're talking about like, oh well, you should be grateful that you got a McDonald's job, and we can automate it. That's kind of their hint. And yeah, that could possibly be automated in the future, but it isn't, because it's very expensive right now. Like one of those robots, the walking robots you see in those commercials and those YouTube videos, they're like at least $100,000. McDonald's worker, even if you pay them $8, $10 an hour, is gonna be a lot cheaper than $100,000 right up front, right? And you can say, well, you don't need it to walk. We don't need it to do this. But you need it to be sanitary. Just think about that. A person can do a sanitary process of cooking the food and all that a lot cheaper than a machine can, and a lot more reliability than a machine can. That's the only reason they haven't done it. A lot of people are going to say, well, they could do it, but they haven't because of the price. And the further we go in time, yeah, there's going to be a crisis in capitalism, where a lot more people that are going to be unemployed, like doctors. There's going to be a time where doctors are going to be on the unemployment line. They think it's never going to happen, but when you get AIs or that can win a Jeopardy show and constantly win that show, then you pretty much already see the how it's gonna end for something as heavily information based type of system, right? Like doctors need to be on top of all that. They go to conferences right now. They go to conferences to get updated on the latest and greatest inventions and techniques and all that. But a machine doesn't need that. It does that automatically, instantaneously. So so the thing is, they can do it a lot faster, a lot cheaper in the future with a machine like an AI, and then some AI controlled robot or workstation like a health station or something like that. That you can even have in your own home. Let's say anything you need, like from blood pressure and all that. Let's say you're feeling sick, it can write do your whole vitals in your house. You know, I know they're talking about the band, the wristband, the health wristband type of thing, and that can only read your heart. You know, I'm talking about like it can run your urine test, it can run your blood test, it can do a basic function test on you, like your hearing, your sight, your motions. Like it can you can technically almost see it being done even on a PlayStation type of device now. The only reason they can't now is because the AI isn't perfected. The system isn't created yet right now. But you can see in the near future that could be a possibility. So that's another job that's gonna be out. Truck drivers, all that. So the crisis is gonna come pretty soon, very fast in a lot of ways. Like you got pollution, overpopulation. You got diminishing resources. You got from oil to pretty much anything that runs your cell phone. All those resources, yeah, they can get recycled to some degree, but every time you recycle something, you you waste a portion of it from aluminum cans to metal. I mean, every time you reprocess it, there's waste in there. There's energy waste. There's a lot of other type of waste that get created, and a lot of pollution that gets created in the process. So that's waste basically. You just don't have enough things, not right now. I mean, you have enough to maintain the system as it is, but with time, with more population, let's say we just double it, double the population, the world population, and in the next 5, 10 years or next 20, that's double the pressure on companies to find more resources, from the cell phone equipment suppliers to the computer suppliers to wood, gypsum, wood, paper, all the basic stuff like for toilet paper, for all the other things that another person's gonna use, right? People say, well, all humans can technically live in a small space. Yeah, but they couldn't walk. They couldn't sleep. I mean, they would be cramped standing. Yeah, technically they could fit, but there's a system that's needed to support all that, right? And that gets spread out, and that takes a lot of land just to grow food, just to extract minerals, just to extract resources, and we just don't have the know-how right now to double it. And yeah, people are saying, well, we could always double it. Technically, yes, and we've been doing that, but there's been a lot of people that have died horrible ways, like with diseases and famine, and a lot of people going like, well, that could never happen now. There's no reason why you can't now. You got more people crammed up in a place, more people using airplanes, more using people using boats, more people using trains, more people using buses, and transportation networks are being improved. Everything is being improved. So technically, you can have and not only that, another thing, uh, viruses now can be easily be created. Maybe not now, but they could easily be created in the lab very easily. Like supervised viruses that can kill pretty much half the population on Earth. And it's going to get to the point where it becomes dumbed down to the point that anybody can do it at some point. Just like nuclear, they're saying, well, we shouldn't let that get out. But now that they released a lot of the information out there, and pretty much anybody can go online now and create a nuclear reactor or something, a nuclear bomb, or it's basically the same thing. Except one doesn't blow up. That's the only thing that's a difference. But the dissemination of information is way more easier. So that means it's way more easier for some terrorists to use information like that for viruses. For I mean, the more you get advanced, the more things become more stressful, more more challenging. I guess that would be the word for the system to keep up with it for all that. I mean, you talk about doubling all the pressures that have been created by overpopulation now. A lot of people are saying, well, there's underpopulation happening in Europe, for example, or in the U.S. It really isn't. The only population that's decreasing is upper white middle class population right now. That's decreasing, but that's only because they're being smart and having one kid. So they're giving that one kid a better life or two kids. So that's still not gonna be. I mean, thanks for them, right? But that's still not gonna be enough to lower the world population. That's what you need. You need to lower it or stabilize it to what we have now. What we have now is something that we can make everybody's life on Earth pretty good. Even if we stay the same for like next 1,000 years, that would be good because our technological progress would make everybody live a great life. You know, I think that the thing about capitalism that it sees itself as being the most moral system, but it really isn't. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of things that are hurting the common man. A lot of people's lives, and with more people being unemployed, there's more pressure on the system to basically if everything gets done by robots or AIs, what are people going to do, right? The capitalistic system of buying more, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? It doesn't work right now. I mean, it works right now temporarily for the U.S. But if we if if we do this to the whole world, where everybody has to be like the U.S., everybody has to be capitalistic or consumeristic, that's gonna not work out in the long run because nobody can sustain the system that we have now. Nobody can really have that much oil. Nobody has that many resources to supply all this stuff. Right now, temporarily, it's working. It's not gonna work for a long time, and that's that's when this country, besides it oppressing common man, common woman type of scenarios, you can have yeah, systematic collapses and the food system and the resource systems. I mean, you can only get so much ore of any material, and you can even if you using it the most efficiently that you can, right? It can there's only enough resources to make not these future cell phones, but the next people's cell phones, the next computer, the next whatever, right? I mean, you create a lot of waste, a lot of resource diminishment, and at some point it becomes where the resource to make that product, like the cell phone, like the computer, becomes so rare. It becomes very valuable. So that means our cell phones that cost like really like $100 to $1,000 are going to go up in price in the future. Everything is going to go up in price unless this is the big thing, right? Unless we go to space and mine shit and then bring it to Earth and then and keep that system going. But you can't afford it now. You can't afford to go to space and mine all this crap. NASA is saying that they can go to asteroid and get some chunk of it and bring it to Earth. But how much would that cost? How much would it cost just to bring one asteroid? And that shit on it has to be very expensive, right? It has to be like billions of